And welcome to Hannity. And tonight, President-elect Trump continues his thank you tour. We'll have highlights for you. That's coming up later in the show. But first, sore loser Democrats continue to push the idea that Russia helped President-elect Trump win the election. That's tonight's opening monologue. All right, so liberals, they desperately keep playing up a narrative that Russia has hacked and helped Donald Trump with his electoral victory over Hillary Clinton, despite, of course, conflicting views on the issue of intelligence from the CIA and the FBI. Now, the left wing is running wild with reports that say that the CIA, without any concrete or new evidence, none, they had it all before the election, they think now that Russian hackers influenced the election all in favor of Donald Trump. That's their conspiracy. Now, Democrats and the abusively biased alt-left mainstream media, they're pushing the CIA's assessment as an undeniable fact. But, of course, you need to know the truth. It is not. Now, the FBI has reached a much different conclusion than the CIA because they have not found conclusive evidence that Russia was trying to assist Donald Trump in any way. Now, Reuters is reporting that America's top spy agency, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, is not embracing the CIA's conclusions either. Why? There's a lack of evidence. Now, instead of accepting the facts on all of this and telling you, the American people, the truth, the left, led by President Obama, continue to repeat falsehoods. Why? What's their motive here? To delegitimize President-elect Donald Trump. As for President Obama, now he's done a major flip-flop on the potential of the election in America being rigged or interfered with. You may remember back in October, well, this is President Obama mocking Donald Trump for raising concerns about fairness in an election. Watch this.
The larger point that I want to emphasize here is that there is no serious person out there who would suggest somehow that you could even rig America's elections. And so I'd advise Mr. Trump to stop whining and go try to make his case to get votes.
You couldn't do it. Stop whining. Who's whining now? So only after Donald Trump won, well, now President Obama is saying that, yes, outside forces could have influenced the election. Take a look at the hypocrisy from the president. This was on The Daily Show last night. Take a look.
Russia trying to influence our elections dates back to the Soviet Union. What they did here, hacking some emails and releasing them, is not a particularly fancy brand of espionage or propaganda. We were, frankly, more concerned in the run-up to the election to the possibilities of vote tampering, which we did not see evidence of, and we're confident that we could guard against.
Remember last week, opening monologue, I said, they are not your friends. Obama is not Donald Trump's friend. Now, in the same interview, President Obama took the Russian hacking idea even further by alleging that President-elect Trump has direct ties to Russia. Let's take a look.
You had what was very clear relationships between members of the President-elect's campaign team and Russians, and a professed shared view on a bunch of issues.
Now, when it comes to working with the Russians, well, President Obama clearly has a pretty short memory. Now, you may remember when he was caught on a hot mic saying this to the Prime Minister, Dmitry Medvedev, back in 2012.
This is my last election for you. Yeah. After my election, I have more flexibility. Yeah. I understand. I transmit this information to Vladimir.
And as long as we're talking about the issue of interfering in elections, well, the Obama administration, they know a lot about that, too. Remember a congressional investigation? They found that back in 2014, an Israeli political group used a $300,000 Obama State Department grant. Why? To create a political apparatus to try and defeat the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Now, while President Obama pretends to be morally outraged over Russian hacking and influence, well, he's done next to nothing on cybersecurity in the entire 8 years he's been president. Now, despite several massive attacks, by the way, on the federal government during that time frame, for example, since 2012, hackers have attacked NASA, the Department of Energy, the FEC, Commission networks, the U.S. Postal Service, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. They've hacked the White House, the State Department, the Department of Defense, the IRS, and the Office of Personnel Management. Now, the whole election cycle was all about Hillary Clinton's emails, WikiLeaks. So where was the hacking outrage before she lost? Now, on this show, we have been warning that something needs to be done, which is why I've been saying often and criticized often for saying that we need to learn from Julian Assange and WikiLeaks and actually try and fix the problem. Remember, he hacked into NASA and the Department of Defense when he was only 16 years old. Well, that's not going to happen any time before January 20th, because here's the simple truth that you've got to remember. The president doesn't care about hacking. All he cares about, after 8 years of doing nothing, is to undermine and delegitimize Donald Trump's presidency. Here now, with reaction, editor-in-chief of LifeZette, Fox News contributor Laura Ingraham. Laura, if they cared about hacking, we've known that this has been going on. They don't care about hacking. This is about politics. Do you agree or disagree?
Totally agree. If Hillary had won the election, we'd never hear anything about this again. They'd move on to the other cause of the moment or the day. And remember, Sean, when we learned that the Chinese had hacked into 50 million U.S. personnel files, including mine. And I know that because I got a notice from the U.S. government saying that they would give me, I think, a year of some type of identity theft protection service, because they had my background check.
LifeLock is a sponsor of mine, Laura, and probably yours too.
Yeah. Well, they had a copy of my background check for when I was a White House employee or Supreme Court clerk or one of those two. So I don't remember President Obama ever taking China to task. They have 50 million files of Social Security numbers, home addresses, all of our siblings, all the places where we ever lived, of 50 million government employees. That's China. Now, last time I checked, they're one of our geopolitical adversaries as well. So you're exactly right. You're right on the money on this. This is all about sour grapes and trying to delegitimize the Trump victory, and also, I think, try to subtract from any mandate that he believes, rightly, that he has to reform the government. So they never change their ideas about policy, Sean. They just move their lines of attack, which is what they're doing right now.
It's funny because Obama did go on 60 Minutes and sort of exonerated Hillary Clinton over the email server scandal. Oh, it's no big deal. Now, of course, we later learned a 99% certainty that 5 foreign intelligence agencies were able to get top secret information, special access program information. So he was wrong there, nor did he seem to care. So I've got to believe that all of this is politics. So here's my next question. First, they tried the recount. That didn't work out too well for them. Now they're trying the hacking. But behind the scenes, it seems that Obama and Clinton surrogates have their fingerprints all over this electoral college effort to try and get them to switch their votes. Do you take that as real? We're 6 days away from the electoral college voting.
I think we won't know until the vote is actually cast. I think the push to get all the Trump electors to watch or to get some type of intelligence briefing, I mean, that's really rich. I mean, why shouldn't the Clinton electors get a briefing as to all the things that you described in your monologue? The breaches into her system, the lack of transparency right off the bat, and all of her prevarication and misrepresentation, to put it kindly. I mean, they should get that briefing. If the Trump people are going to get another type of briefing, let's make it fair. So, but look, is this going to change the outcome? I doubt it. But I think a lot of this, Sean, is about feeding the beast of these activist groups that are really antsy and angry right now on the left. They feel like they put it all on the line for Hillary Clinton, even though a lot of them like Sanders better. They were suspicious of Mrs. Clinton for her ties to the establishment, but a lot of them kind of, bit the dust for her anyway. And now they're mad. And they need something to believe in. They need something to hold on to. So I think this is as much about getting email addresses and raising money for the next electoral push as it is about anything else.
Let me ask you this, because every bit of information that we're hearing, we all knew before the election. There's nothing new here. Now, the director of national intelligence, Clapper, the FBI director, and the FBI itself, they've come to very different conclusions about this. There's nothing new here. So then that raises questions. Why is the media, and why is Hillary Clinton, who warned that Donald Trump can't do this? This has never happened. You can't challenge an election like this. That's not how our system works. how does she justify being a part of all of these efforts?
Well, I think it's kind of rich for Hillary Clinton to tell us that's not how the system worked, when that's the entire way she ran the State Department. Whether it was the influence peddling that we knew was happening, the use of consultants who were also on the government payroll, who were working for the Teneo Corporation, all of that shouldn't have been done. So whether Donald Trump decides not to pursue an investigation into the Clinton Foundation or not, we know what was happening. But that's not
his call, is it? Wouldn't that be the Attorney General and Justice Department's call?
I think ultimately it would be. But obviously, whatever signal Trump gives probably is going to have some influence. But I agree. If you're going to run based on the rule of law applying across the board to all people, regardless of what their last name is or where they came from, and if there was real criminality here, or potential for real criminality, probable cause to believe there's criminality, then I think you have to really take this seriously.
And the CIA, we know, for example, the Obama administration has a history of manipulating intelligence for gain, like in the CENTCOM scandal. But also, didn't the CIA write or rewrite the talking points as it all related to Benghazi?
The Benghazi.
But having never spoken to anybody that was there on the ground, they manufactured it in Langley. By the way, and I'm not criticizing our intelligence agency, but there are some political agents there that would have us believe this was a spontaneous attack where people had RPGs and mortars in their back pocket and spontaneously pulled them out and attacked the embassy, which never happened.
Now, I think there's a lot of reasons to believe, going back to the Iraq War, that there was politicized intelligence that was being put out to the American public for a variety of reasons. And again, I think there's such noble, heroic efforts on the part of our intelligence agencies. There's so many good men and women who are putting their lives on the line. We don't want to in any way cast aspersions on them. But the idea that it's just all sacrosanct because some anonymous source leaks it out of the CIA, I just think that's ridiculous. I mean,
all right, stay right there. We got to take a break. We're going to have more with Laura, though, coming up right after this quick break. And coming up, President-elect Trump, he holds another thank you tour rally tonight in the state of Wisconsin. We'll play the highlights. Plus, he made it official. Donald Trump announced this morning that he is selecting ExxonMobil CEO Rex Tillerson to be his Secretary of State. We'll get reaction from somebody who knows him, Lou Dobbs, and then later tonight, the Reverend Darrell Scott, NFL legend Jim Brown. They met with the president-elect at Trump Tower today. They spoke about issues impacting the black community. They'll join us in studio later tonight. Straight ahead. And welcome back to Hannity. So President-elect Donald Trump continues reaching out to his supporters on his thank you tour. Here are some of the highlights.
Thank you, everybody. So when I started 18 months ago, I told my first crowd in Wisconsin that we're going to come back here someday and we are going to say Merry Christmas again. Merry Christmas. So Merry Christmas, Evan. Happy New Year, but Merry Christmas. Speaker Paul Ryan. Where's Speaker? Where is he? He has been, I'll tell you, he has been terrific. And you know, honestly, he's like a fine wine. Every day goes by, I get to appreciate his genius more and more. Now, if he ever goes against me, I'm not going to say that, okay? He's a great guy, and we have some amazing things in store. And we're going to work on taxes. We're going to work on Obamacare. We're going to work on things, and he's going to lead the way. So thank you. We're going to work on the wall, Paul. You think we're playing games, right? Somebody said the other day, well, now that Trump won, he's really not going to build the wall. I said, what are you? We're going to build the wall, okay? Believe me. We're going to build the wall. You have to. Got to stop the drugs from coming in, and the wall's going to be a big, big factor. Today I announced my plans to nominate Rex Tillerson, right? The Chief Executive Officer and Chairman of ExxonMobil, to be the next Secretary of State. Rex is one of the greatest and most skilled global business leaders of our time, made some of the greatest deals ever made in the oil industry or any industry, a great diplomat, a strong man, a tough man, a man who's already earned an avalanche of endorsements and growing praise from our nation's top leaders.
And we continue with Laura Ingraham with more on this. I love the idea, if you ask people to do something and they do it, I love the idea of saying thank you. But more importantly, I firmly believe that what we see happening now is only the start. And I do believe everything will be done to politically destroy him by the left. It's only, this is nothing compared to what's coming, in my opinion. And it's for him to bypass the media, go directly to people, and make this a signature of his presidency, I think would be very wise for him to continue.
Yeah, I mean, he's his own press secretary. I mean, he's doing in such a, I think, a really smart, it's a brilliant strategy, going right to the people and going around the stereotype that the left has tried to paint him with now for over a year and a half, which is, oh, he's just a billionaire. He's just saying these things. He doesn't mean them. He's just, you know, he's all about celebrity. No, he's with the people. And what he's reminding folks of is how politics and identity politics, Sean, what you've talked about for years, the politically correct nonsense that has invaded our university settings, that is stultifying to free speech. He wants to wipe that all away and do things that actually make the lives of everyday Americans, people that we grew up with, like we grew up, their lives better. That will drive the left crazy, Sean, because he goes into their territory and he tells people who are normally Democrats, it doesn't have to be this way. Just try it with us for a while. See what we do for your life to make it better. And we want you to be part of this great new American experiment.
I'm beginning to see the opposition build among the Republicans. Like they seem to side McConnell and Ryan with the CIA over this issue, not the FBI, not the Director of Intelligence. That's troublesome because it's almost like they still want to be liked by the establishment, but they are in many ways the establishment. Will that be a problem, dealing with McConnell, dealing with Ryan? Will they pass the more controversial aspects of the promises that he ran on?
I think you're exactly right to raise this issue early on. Donald Trump has a very short window to get a lot done. And I think not only would the establishment, entrenched interests on the left be at his throat, but you're right about McConnell and Ryan. Not that they'll not work with them on a lot of things. I think they will. But on issues from trade, which Sean, keep your eye on who the pick is for the U.S. trade representative. That's the individual who will actually litigate cases for us and run the strategy in the international tribunals and actually negotiate trade deals. We haven't named that pick yet. We haven't seen that pick yet. That's going to be very important. Dan D'Amico, who's fabulous, former CEO, manufacturing CEO. Bob Lighthizer, former deputy USTR in the Reagan administration, who is incredibly brilliant. Those are two really smart picks. There are some other people out there who I think raise some eyebrows among us who believe that we should have more of an economic populist approach, which is Trump's approach. So that's really important. But I think Ryan and McConnell are going to be pushing the more globalist agenda on the USTR office.
All right, Laura Ingraham, always great to see you. Thank you so much. When we come back, President-elect Trump, he picks ExxonMobil CEO Rex Tillerson to be his Secretary of State. Lou Dobbs joins us with the Insider Track. Then later tonight, Reverend Scott and NFL legend Jim Brown, they met with President-elect Trump to talk about issues impacting the African-American community. They'll be in studio. Also tonight, Fox and Friends co-host Ainsley Earhart is here to talk about Ivanka Trump and will she work for her dad in Washington? Straight ahead. And welcome back to Hannity. So after weeks of rumors, reports, speculation, President-elect Donald Trump has made a decision on Secretary of State by officially nominating ExxonMobil Chairman CEO Rex Tillerson to be America's next top diplomat. Now, the president-elect also took to Twitter, writing, quote, "I have chosen one of the truly great business leaders of the world, Rex Tillerson, Chairman, CEO of ExxonMobil, to be the Secretary of State." All right, somebody who knows everybody in business so well from the Fox Business Network, our good friend Lou Dobbs. How are you? Good to see you, by the way. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. What can you tell us about him? The only comment negative that I saw was from Tony Perkins, and it was about social issues. And he's not going to be involved in social issues.
That's not his responsibility. And a lot of people have got some negatives. They talk about the fact he supported TPP. The president is saying he's against. You can go through a list of things where there are variants, but you've said the important thing. He is to be the Secretary of State. He's not responsible for social issues. He's not going to have a box of wedge issues that he's going to retreat to. I think, and I don't know this, but I assume the president-elect chose him because he has handled massive deals. He works with governments, other large corporations, and Donald Trump said it absolutely correctly. He is a world-class businessman who has carried off, he's carried off some deals that are incredible. Working with Russia, working anywhere in the world.
Well, apparently working successfully with Russia, negotiating deals with them in the minds of people in Washington right now is a negative, but it's ExxonMobil's responsibility to make a profit and to bring their products and services to market, and he did a great job, good job?
A great job, and furthermore, the Secretary of State's job, no matter what John Kerry may pretend, the Secretary of State's job is to lead our diplomatic efforts. Leave it to the Defense Department if we want to go to war with someone. Leave it to the President, the Commander-in-Chief. He'll make those decisions. The Secretary of State, it should never be a negative that he or she in that position would want to have positive, affirmative relationships with other nations. That should be their goal.
Explain how big, for people that don't follow business as closely as you do, people like me, to be perfectly frank, his economy or his business, the amount of money that he would handle, is bigger than a great percentage of
world countries.
Of world countries.
Yeah, and the company itself is massive, and it works on plans that reach out 10 years in terms of development. And by the way, Rex Tillerson came up through the development side of the business before merging with Mobil. This is a guy who has expertise that the president says, and let's say that it was negligible expertise. Let's say he had a negligible background. He is the president-elect's choice, and that should be enough for most people.
Let me ask you this. So from the economic side, if Donald Trump is able to repatriate the trillions from multinational corporations at 10%, if he drops 7 brackets to 3 in terms of tax brackets, if he gets a 15% corporate tax rate, if he eliminates Obamacare, I think that may end up being like a tax refund for Americans because they'll have cheaper health care costs. And if he adds the component of energy independence, which he wants to, because we have more energy than all of the Middle East combined when you add natural gas and shale.
Do you want to go for the whole Mount Rushmore portfolio?
Yeah.
And he secures the border and our ports.
Less competition.
And rationalizes our immigration system. And makes it absolutely clear that this country is not going to get involved in wars.
You've reported on the economy for all these decades that you have been in the media and somebody I've watched for years. Is this the formula to get us at what percent GDP growth, Obama being the only president in history that never had 1 year at 3% GDP?
As quickly as he can move toward rationalizing these so-called free trade agreements. We have had 40 years of consecutive trade deficits. Donald Trump in no way has exaggerated about the problem.
You're a free trader.
I'm absolutely a free trader.
Fair trader.
I want to be fair. I want the same trade policy as, say, Europe or China. You know, they have free trade as a goal, too, except for one thing. They make certain they're getting trade surpluses, not trade deficits. The world has been living off our deficits for a very long time.
If an American car company wants to sell a car in China, what do we pay?
Good luck. It's not going to happen.
Why?
Because there are huge barriers. There are cultural barriers, there are social barriers, and ultimately, there are tariffs.
Yeah, exactly.
There are tariffs.
I know.
Don't tell anybody.
Lou Dobbs, don't miss him. Every night, 7 p.m. on the Fox Business Network. Thanks, Lou. Appreciate it. Up next, tonight, right here on Hannity.
We have by no means overcome the legacies of slavery and Jim Crow and colonialism and racism.
As Obama saying America has not overcome the legacies of slavery and Jim Crow. Up next, we'll speak with the Reverend Darrell Scott, NFL legend Jim Brown. They met with the president-elect Donald Trump today, and they're talking about issues that will impact the black community. They're in studio. Also tonight, President-elect Trump says he would like his daughter Ivanka to join him in Washington. Well, what role might she have? We'll check in with Fox and Friends co-host Ainsley Earhart, who interviewed Ivanka multiple times during the campaign. She joins us with reaction straight ahead. Welcome back to Hannity. So last night, during an interview on The Daily Show, President Obama reflected on a wide range of issues and said this about race in America today. Take a look.
Race continues to be this powerful factor in so many elements of our lives, but that it is not the only factor in so many aspects of our lives, that we have by no means overcome the legacies of slavery and Jim Crow and colonialism and racism, but that the progress we've made has been real and extraordinary.
Now, as President Obama reflects on race in America today, President-elect Trump, he met with African-American leaders in New York City to talk about issues that impact their community. Joining us now to discuss those meetings are two men who attended it. He's an executive committee member on Trump's transition team, the Reverend Darrell Scott from Cleveland, and he's a Hall of Fame NFL legend, the one and only Jim Brown. Last night, Jim received the Sports Illustrated Muhammad Ali Legacy Award. You know, I got gloves up in my office that Muhammad Ali signed and sent to me.
Yeah, he must really like you.
By the way, so I want hold up your hands. Okay. Look at his right hand. Pan in on his right hand. No, that's the left hand. Your right one. Yeah.
Well, it's both.
No, show him the pinky. Look at the pinky. Look at how those hands. Is that all from football?
Yes.
Man, did you bust them like 20 times each?
Hey, look, I was busting something else, too. I wasn't just getting busted.
You know, Pastor, you and I have been friends now. We've become friends over this campaign. I had the honor of hanging out with you last night, and we're talking religion and politics. We're having a good time, but we also spent a lot of time talking about the black community. And one of the things I suggest, and I know Donald Trump's talked about it because I've talked to him about it, and you have. So if we're going to take in $3 trillion repatriated money from multinational corporations at 10%. Why don't we lower it to 5 or 6 and tell those companies to invest in your city of Cleveland, in Milwaukee, in Detroit, and Philadelphia? If you add to that education sent back to the communities and choice and competition for those dollars, because top-down education isn't working and inner city schools have been impacted negatively the worst, wouldn't that help go a long way to showing that government can help the black community?
Absolutely. I mean, we felt disconnected by the government. We felt disconnected by whatever presidential administrations. It seems like we're forgotten people, a forgotten race. And we
every 4 years, they come calling for votes.
Right, and right now, you know, especially during this last election, we presented a picture of oppression. That, you know, we even referred to whites as the oppressor. And so that puts a mentality that needs to be dealt with before we can make some positive change.
What do you think when Obama says that America by no means has overcome the legacies of slavery, Jim Crow, colonialism, racism, and that those who favor welfare cuts are racist? What is he talking about? Well, this country elected him in massive numbers.
Yeah, well, once again, that speaks to the mindset. I mean, welfare should never be a goal. Welfare was meant to be assistance until you were able to make a positive change in your life. It was never supposed to be a lifestyle. We should never have second, third, fourth, fifth generation welfare recipients in America of any nationality.
Jim Brown, if Donald Trump follows up and brings economic development specifically into inner city America that needs it the most, if he gives parents whose kids have been suffering in inferior schools the choice to send them to more competitive schools, would that go a long way to getting away from this, I guess, the 90% of black America that always votes Democrat?
That's a very tricky statement.
That's not a tricky question. That's an easy question.
Well, I tell you, naturally, well, let me put it this way. The president-elect have already said that he's in. We made a presentation to him about economic development in the black community, about families, about the state of our black communities in this country. And he realizes that with the education and the attack on the violence that takes place, that we can then get on the right track. And with our economic development.
Did you walk out of that meeting confident today that he's going to follow up?
Oh, absolutely. He's not a phony.
He's not.
He's not a phony. So he agreed that we can work together. So we're coming to bring him something, and through this young gentleman, the pastor here, we have been able to come and be on your show tonight as a unified threesome.
If you look at polls along racial lines, America's never been more divided. Obama leaves after 8 years saying, we haven't overcome slavery, Jim Crow, colonialism, racism, and if you want a welfare cut, you're racist. Really? Every 4 years as a conservative, I resent the Democratic Party playing the race card. I look at a president that saw, during his presidency, 4,000 dead people in his home city, 3,000 shot this year, and he didn't lift a finger, Pastor.
Chicago?
Not a finger.
Well, one of the reasons we had our meeting with the president-elect today is, you know, Jim Brown has a program that's been very effective over the years that can address this situation. Now, Mr. Trump made promises to the African-American community. What do you have to lose? Give me a chance. And rather than we sit down with intelligentsia and try to rely on statistics to try to address the affairs or the problems of the African-American community, Jim Brown already has a model. He already has a vehicle that's very, very effective in 99% of that which we need to address. And so my thing is, let's get it to the table. Let's get this administration. Let's get this country behind it. Put some gas in the vehicle, and we can ride this thing into a promised land.
All right. So if we go energy independent, if he's able to incentivize companies to build in Detroit, Cleveland, Philly, and all over the country, cities that need it, Milwaukee, then let's have some ribbon cuttings. Let's get some people hired. Let's fix the schools. And I say a lot of your problems go away. You agree?
Absolutely.
So I should be president.
But here's the deal.
What?
You're talking about it. This is your job to talk. We have to go out and implement it.
No, I'm not just talking.
This is a tremendous. Well, okay, then you're part of it. But this is the beginning.
All right.
Of a different attitude, because this young man has positioned the president in a position that he will be able to utilize so many of our great athletes and our great entertainers.
To help. You know, here it is.
Right, to help.
But the best part is, he's talking to you now after he won.
Of course.
Right?
Yes.
So that to me is a good sign.
And you know what?
By the way, do you still want me to preach at the pulpit in your
January
church?
15th.
He's preaching right now.
Yeah.
I am not preaching right now. What do you mean I'm preaching right now?
January the 15th.
Listen,
you have your own idea about it, which is good.
Here's what I believe. I believe that every child is a child of God. This is my message. Education means to bring forth from within, and we have destroyed so much talent of young people because we have not fed and given them the water and the light that they need to grow into what they could be, what God created them to be.
We are sitting here.
Yeah, I know. To help.
Yes.
That's why I invited you.
Thank you.
All right, I got a break. January 15th, up next tonight on Hannity.
If you look at Ivanka, you take a look, and she's so strong, as you know, into the women's issue and child care, and so many things should be so good. Nobody could do better than her.
President-elect Trump, he says he wants his daughter Ivanka to be involved in the administration. Fox and Friends co-host Ainsley Earhardt interviewed her many times during the campaign. What could Ivanka's role look like? We'll ask Ainsley coming up next. Straight ahead. And welcome back to Hannity. So during his interview on Fox News Sunday, President-elect Trump, he spoke about his daughter Ivanka and his son-in-law Jared Kushner moving to Washington with him and if they'd had roles in his administration. Let's watch this.
I would love to be able to have them involved. If you look at Ivanka, you take a look, and she's so strong, as you know, into the women's issue and child care, and so many things should be so good. Nobody could do better than her, and I just have to see whether or not we can do that, and she would like to do that, and I'd love to have Jared helping us on deals with other nations and see if we can do peace in the Middle East and other things.
All right, Fox and Friends co-host Ainsley Earhardt. She interviewed Ivanka several times during the campaign, including about Ivanka's interest in childcare. Let's take a look.
We need to create a more robust marketplace for childcare solutions. So, you know, the one-size-fits-all institutional model of childcare doesn't work for everyone. If you live in rural communities, you won't have access to that type of childcare. So, you know, reducing regulations to create a more dynamic marketplace will bring down the cost of childcare.
All right, joining us now, author of the #1 New York Times bestseller, Take Heart, My Child, A Mother's Dream, Fox and Friends, co-host Ainsley Earhart. By the way, congrats, the book is killing it.
Thank you.
And I know you've been traveling around the country. Congrats.
Had so much fun. Getting a taste of what you've done all these years.
Yeah, a little bit, but that's in my past.
Everyone asks about you. They love you.
Oh, thank you.
You're
Thanks.
welcome.
I have spent time with Ivanka, but you've spent more time. You really have gotten to know her. It seems I've watched you interview her one time in particular where I interviewed her and then you interviewed her. And you guys really get along very well.
I like her a lot. She's very put together. She's very smart. She has an amazing business. She's a mother of 3 children, and she's just extremely successful. They were raised in a billion-dollar environment, and they are hard workers. And they say this. They didn't go out playing football in the backyard with their dad. They went out to construction sites, meeting the individuals. She said when her dad keeps her children, they'll walk down the streets and Donald Trump will say, that's a pothole. That needs to be fixed to the daughter.
Right?
So Ivanka says sometimes she's walking down the streets of New York with her oldest daughter, and her daughter will say, Mommy, grandfather would not like that. There's a crack in the road.
Which is pretty funny.
Isn't that cute?
What role might she take, do you know?
So they're telling me, I talked to 3 different sources within the campaign today, and they're saying they're waiting just to untangle all of this. They say that this is a sign of his excellent leadership skills, that he doesn't want to rush into something, doesn't want to do this too quickly until it's all figured out. They have a lot of attorneys involved. They're all meeting with attorneys tomorrow and then in the days to come. They're trying to figure out the best way to do this because there are so many different laws that prevent maybe the kids from working with him and working with the business and the nepotism laws and all of that. So they're trying to figure it all out. They're going to do the right thing, they said. It's just going to take a little bit more time.
And on the business side, he's going to hand everything over to Don Jr. and Eric.
Correct.
But they're not going to reach out or expand the business.
Correct.
They're just going to maintain the business.
Existing.
You know, it really, I thought, was unfair to Ivanka. Remember, she was on 60 Minutes and she happened to have on a bracelet. Somebody at her company tweeted out, oh, that's the bracelet she was wearing on 60 Minutes. And I'm like, really?
It
We're
didn't
going to take a cheap shot?
It didn't hurt them.
Well, it seemed like the media, they're just looking for any little thing to hurt her and the family.
Women, I have always encouraged other women to champion women. I mean, you know, she's doing so well. Her business is amazing. Her price points are really good. I mean, Sean, I like shoes. I like to shop. Her price points are pretty good.
I have 3 pairs of shoes.
I know, with holes in the bottom of them, right?
Probably.
Like
my father said. Yeah. All right, so you see maybe she's going to really take that role?
I think she'll definitely take a role. She's very close to her dad. We saw what she did with the hotel down there. The staff did say that she has really young kids, so it's easy for her, of course we know that, but it's easier for her to move down there because the kids are little and they're not enrolled in schools yet like Barron is, or they're, you know, younger age. So it's easier for them. But they said that Donald Trump is in meetings for 10 to 15 hours a day trying to figure out his cabinet. That's why he doesn't have as much time to focus on this right now. That's why they're tabling it until January.
All right, congrats. Take Heart, My Child, A Mother's Dream, #1 New York Times bestseller. Congratulations.
Thank you so much for promoting that. It's a great Christmas gift, and some of the proceeds go to Folds of
Honor. It's a great story behind it, too. All right, Ainsley, thank you so much. Good to see you. Coming up, we need your help. A very important question of the day. Straight ahead. All right, welcome back to Hannity. Time for our question of the day. So what do you think of President-elect Donald Trump's pick for Secretary of State? Go to Facebook.com/Sean Hannity, @Sean Hannity on Twitter. Let us know what you think. Certainly out of the box. Very interesting background. But that's all the time we have left this evening. As always, thank you for being with us. We'll see you back here tomorrow night.